For women, the precondition for sex is they need to feel loved and cared for first, and then they have sex. Guys have the need for sex and they feel loved and cared for afterwards. Right? So understand that if you're the victim of infidelity, or if you're the victim of bullying, the trick is not to flip it on its head and become the bully. Emotional safety in a relationship, it's what makes loving relationships work. Welcome to another episode of Rich in Relationship, and we are continuing our series on From Wrath to Ruin, Old Testament tactics for marital meltdown. And these are tactics that have been around for thousands of years, folks. And they will be around for thousands of years unless we change, right? Because we are the carriers of this disease. It's like a generational disease. Today, we're going to talk about fire and brimstone, the dangers of fear-based motivation, right? And really, what we're talking about today is bullying, right? And bullying is very common, more common than you would care to believe. And in this series, we've taken to starting with a story. Yes, nothing like a good nighttime story. And as usual, any resemblance to reality is strictly accidental, and the names have been changed to protect the innocent. So are you ready? Here it comes. In a scenic town, surrounded by gentle hills and tranquil meadows, resided a couple named Jack and Emily. Having faced and overcome many challenges together in our previous episodes, they emerged stronger and more tenacious with each hurdle. However, their love was about to encounter its most daunting trial, the destructive dynamic fueled by fear-based motivation. Dun, dun, dun! Growing up with an alcoholic or narcissistic father, Jack had witnessed firsthand the use of fear-based manipulation within his family. When he discovered that Emily had been unfaithful to him, he was left devastated and betrayed. The anguish was intolerable, and Jack became obsessed with regaining control of their relationship in order to avert any future infidelity. He saw that he was becoming just like his dad, and this terrified him. Desperate for answers, he turned to the Unbreakable Husband program. As Jack delved deeper into the program, he realized that the solution was to drop the efforts at control, at rewarding and punishing. He released his fears through trigger hacking, and he began to build open communication, trust, and emotional intimacy with Emily. The program helped Jack to understand that the true partnership is one that is built on mutual respect, love, and support rather than control and intimidation. In response to Jack's newfound kindness, as he turned over this new leaf, as Jack was more and more attentive to Emily's needs and totally dropped the bullying routine, Emily found herself racked with guilt and remorse over her infidelity. She longed for forgiveness and a chance to rebuild their relationship. Jack's newfound commitment to open communication and emotional connection allowed them to work through the pain and start healing together. As the days turned into weeks, the once loving and supportive atmosphere of their home returned, filled with trust, understanding, and genuine connection. Jack and Emily's relationship flourished as they continued to apply the valuable lessons they learned from the Unbreakable Husband program. Their love and commitment to each other grew stronger, proving that even the most challenging situations can be overcome with empathy, communication, and shared dedication and growth. So this is a story of bullying, but really it's a story about fear. So first there was the fear of Jack. I want to just say for the record that Emily didn't step out on Jack just because she was like horny, right? Like that's the way guys think. You know, women aren't wired that way. For women, the precondition for sex is they need to feel loved and cared for first, and then they have sex. Guys have the need for sex, and they feel loved and cared for afterwards. We're just wired differently. We have different brains and different biologies. So what you can count on there is that Emily wasn't feeling safe. And the chances are that Jack was bullying all along, but when he found out about Emily's frustration, it went up to like level 10, right? And so Emily's response to not feeling safe was to look for safety, look for another safe haven, right? That's her need, her desire, her programming, and thus the infidelity. So the infidelity may not have even been about Tom, who was Emily's friend at work 3 or 4 episodes ago. I don't know if it was Tom. I'm just making this up as I go along. The motivation was not the person. It was the need and desire for safety and for closeness and to feel heard. And what happened here is Jack, once he hit a bottom with his bullying, he was like, oh my God, I'm becoming like my dad. I was never going to be like my dad. That's when he turns a corner and he learns through the Unbreakable program to stop dumping his anger, to stop bribing, to stop trying to control Emily, and to just feed into her, to build her up, and to take his stuff elsewhere for processing. Right? And that's the basis of that program. And after that comes the rebuilding of the relationship. So fear-based motivation in this story, there's actually 2 sides to it. Of course, there's the fear that Emily has when Jack gets all upset. That really just drives her further away. But there's also the fear that Jack has. Jack is afraid that he's going to lose Emily, and he leans into intimidation or coercion at first to control or influence her. And that just ups Emily's fear. So the truth is that even coercion and intimidation are fear-based. So when we talk about fear-based motivation, understand that in the victim triangle, is what it's called, everything is fear-based. So the victim triangle, in case you don't know, is made up of the victim. In this case, was it Emily or was it Jack? It depends on who you talk to. The abuser, again, was it Emily or was it Jack? And the rescuer. Is there a rescuer in this story? Not to our knowledge. The Unbreakable program is not a rescuer. It's not rescuing the victim from the abuser. It's rescuing Jack from himself. Right? It's not the same. So in that triangle, one person is the abuser. Actually, in that triangle, Jack is the abuser, Emily's the victim, and the person that she has the affair with is the rescuer. So the rescuer has an investment. Let's call him Tom. Tom has an investment in Jack continuing to be bullying, because as long as Jack is bullying, Emily wants to be rescued. And as long as she wants to be rescued, Tom can be the safe haven for her and rescue her from this terrible situation she has at home. And what happened here was the second that Jack changed his role, he stepped out of the triangle. He said, you know what? I'm not going to be the victim of infidelity, and I'm not going to be the abuser anymore, nor am I going to be the rescuer. I'm going to be Jack. I'm going to lead in my own life and take authority over my own life, and hopefully, as I change and speak confidence, and basically he steps into the role of coach with Emily, coaches Emily in her life, she comes back to him. Because Jack ends the dynamic. Right? So understand that if you're the victim of infidelity, or if you're the victim of bullying, the trick is not to flip it on its head and become the bully, or not to be rescued. The trick is to step out of the dynamic the way Jack did. Right? That's basically what the Unbreakable Husband program does, is it teaches people to step out of the dynamic. Emotional safety in a relationship, it's what makes loving relationships work. If we don't feel that we have emotional safety, it's not a loving relationship. When 2 people start dating, the relationship is like a business or a bank. When they start dating, they're feeding attention and positive outcomes and energy into the bank of that relationship. Maybe they have a misstep. They try and clean that up and take it back. And understand that, for every misstep, there needs to be at least 5 positive steps forward to clean up that misstep. Because in our brains, for whatever reason, negatives stick like Velcro and positives slide off like Teflon. So for something to stick on Teflon, you got to really apply it, right? How long does it take for those eggs to really stick to a new Teflon pen, not an old or a new no-stick pen? They don't make Teflon anymore because it's toxic. Emotional safety is what it's all about. And when there's fear, either when our behavior is driven by fear or when fear is driving us to move away, it destroys the relationship. It basically, we're withdrawing all the good stuff out of the relationship and going from positive 500,000 emotional dollars to 250 to zero to negative 250. Well, and when a partner decides they want to get divorced, or when a partner decides they want to step out, these are all ways of saying the relationship's at a deficit. I don't think I can stay here anymore. But it doesn't mean that they don't want to stay. It's a signal. It's a signal that the relationship's at a deficit, and it still can be saved. Now, very often, before people will actually step out, they'll go to resentment and mistrust when safety stops. The first place they go is mistrust and safety. Like Emily was experiencing mistrust and safety, mistrust and resentment. Mistrust, and under that, resentment. She's probably afraid to express her resentment because Jack is something of a bully in this story, but she's experiencing it on a level, and to some extent, her stepping out with another person is a form of acting out on that resentment, but mostly it's a desire for safety. And communication can't happen when there's mistrust and resentment, or positive communication can't happen. The only kind of communication that can happen when there's mistrust and resentment is negative communication, which takes the emotional bank deeper and deeper into debt. Now, when one person steps into the bully role, it creates a very unhealthy power dynamic. And to some extent, Emily's stepping out on Jack is an effort to take back that power. Or when one partner serves another with divorce papers, that's taking back power. It's saying, I'm taking back power in this relationship. And in a healthy relationship, there's a balance of power. Or one person is leading in one area, has more power in one area, and another person has more power in a separate area, depending on their strengths. And the leadership and the power that they have in those areas is given to them by the other person. If one person is really good at managing the structure of a home, the water, the electric, making sure that the house stays dry and heated and cooled and all the logistics of a house, and the other person is really good at making sure that the house is comfortable and nurturing and feels safe and cared for through furniture and decoration, and make sure that the people in the house feel cared for, while the other person who maintains the structure might make sure that there's safety, that locks work, and that everyone knows that that person is looking out for them. Each person is going to submit power to the other in each of these areas. That's healthy power sharing. That's healthy bowing to the strengths of the partner. In Jack and Emily's case, they're taking back power, but they're probably fighting over every little thing. They're probably fighting over what kind of toilet paper they use. You know, when you have a fight about the capping off the toothpaste, that's an unhealthy power dynamic, for example. Underneath the fear is low self-esteem and a lack of emotional well-being. When we're in an environment where there's low trust and where there's resentment, it's unhealthy. When we are resentful, it's unhealthy for us. When we are feeling unsafe, it's unhealthy for us. And the negative effects on us individually are tremendous. You can lose up to 10 years of your lifespan with the chemistry of living in resentment and unhappiness. But also, it starts to impact all the other areas of our life. When a couple is living in resentment and unhappiness and fear, either aggressive behavior driven by fear or fear in response to aggressive behavior, it impacts the children. It impacts the extended family. It impacts the neighbors. You wouldn't think that, but I think unconsciously, on an unconscious level, it impacts the neighbors. You know, My wife and I were house hunting not that long ago, and we walked into this house where clearly abuse had been going on. I mean, there were holes in the walls. There was a teenage couple, an underage teenage couple, asleep in the other room. The mom was really scared that we were there. The place was a mess, and just the vibration of the household was just unhappy. And the outside of the house was uncared for. All around them were nice houses. And for that to be going on in that neighborhood, to have your well cared for house and to see the outside of the other house, to experience the emotion of the people living in that house, or to not experience it because you never see them, that impacts your mindset. It impacts the mood. The success or failure of neighborhoods has everything to do with the people who live in them, is what I'm saying to you. All right, sorry, I digress. So there is zero resolution of conflict when people are in this state, or the resolution of conflict is an illusion. Woman, you're not going to do that anymore. Okay, except that she does, right? There's an illusion that there's conflict is resolved, but it isn't, right? Because when people don't really buy into what one person is saying, when they feel bullied, when they don't really buy into it, they do other things to subvert and undermine that person's bullying. And so there can't be any real agreement or harmony. So how do you get out of this? As we found out with Jack, really what it takes is for one person to step out of the dynamic. Yeah, you know what? Emily could have said, Jack, you're such a bully. I'm so sick of your bullying, right? That's what we tell people to do. We tell them to step up to the bully. Well, that just intensifies the fighting. What it really requires is to step out of that dynamic. Don't look to be rescued. Don't look to confront the bully, but instead to step out and find out what it is you need for yourself. And it may be to step out of the relationship. It may be to engage with the bully in a way that drives them to think about why they're doing what they're doing and the impact of what they're doing on the family. Whatever it is, there's a search for looking for healthier strategies of motivation. Something that's empathy-based, for example. And understand that when a relationship is in this phase, it's not going to move. You don't move from negative 250,000 emotionally to positive 500,000 in a day. It takes weeks, maybe even months to build it up. And how long it takes really has to do with how determined we become to stop pissing in the water emotionally and start building one another up. And the other thing that's going to make a difference is how, when one of us decides that we're going to change and the other one isn't, how well that one sets boundaries. So a tactic that Emily could have used with Jack's bullying, a tactic that I give to clients all the time, is to simply not permit bullying to happen in their space. So they have to make sure that, number one, they have a safe space that the bully will not follow them into, that they can go to. It could be another home. It could be their mom's house. It could be a room in the house that they can lock the door that they'll feel safe in. They need to have some place where they know that person will not follow them. And then number two, they set emotional boundaries, where they say to the person, the bullying starts, right? Derogatory remarks or even bribery. And they say, you know what? This isn't really a good time for this. We're going to talk. Can we talk about this in an hour? I'll be back in a few minutes. And then you go to your safe place and you mentally reset yourself. That's about setting a boundary. And when we set those kind of boundaries, we basically protect ourselves from the negative behavior. And we also protect ourselves from our own reaction to it. Right? In order to step out of a dynamic, we need to step back and look at, all right, so what is my reaction? Why am I having this reaction? And you may need to do some trigger hacking. Trigger hacking is basically mental and emotional release, where you sit down and allow your unconscious mind to look at what are the experiences that have led to this trigger being set up. What is the base fear or limiting belief that I've had since I was 7, 15, 22, whatever, or all of those ages put together that has led to this, and what's next? Now, I would strongly suggest that you don't do this alone unless you've done trigger hacking with a professional and you really understand it. Once you've had a number of mental and emotional release sessions, it's possible to be doing some of this work on your own, but you really do need to be trained in it and understand it. So, if you want some help with this kind of thing, reach out to me, direct message me. If you want to learn more about it, go to our website, richinrelationship.com. Whatever way that you can, that you're comfortable with, reach out and we'll talk some more about it. And in the meantime, just think about this idea of stepping out of the dynamic as opposed to fighting or running away or playing dead, right? Stepping out of the dynamic means we're going to be in our cerebral cortex. Stay tuned as Jack and Emily continue to clear up all of the emotional stops of all of our parents, episode after episode. We got a few more of these that's going to happen. We're going to keep telling you all about Jack and Emily. Thank you and have a great day.